Pacers win streak is over. They get beat by the Toronto Raptors, and they can blame their dreadful, dreadful start to the game. What on earth went wrong in the first 9 to 12 minutes? Why couldn't the Pacers quite complete their comeback? What can they learn from this game and the notebook? We have so much to get to on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin, and today, Pacers winning streak is over. They entered the day with the longest winning streak in the Eastern Conference. They exit today with the worst record in the NBA once again as the Pelicans win. Elsewhere, Raptors beat the Pacers handily in the end. It's a 14-point margin. I think that's fair. This could have been an interesting game where the margin was maybe not reflective of the game because the Pacers were the better team, let's face it, for like 36 to 40 minutes. But they were, how many times have you heard this year? So awful to start the game that it does not matter how good they were for the rest of it. 39-18 first quarter, and that is the story of the game and where we start. And I loved the way Rick Carlisle phrased it after the game when he talked about the Pacers losing this one, right? They cut it to 4 inside the final 5 minutes, right in the game. But they were down 27 at one point in this game. They were down 21 in the first quarter. How on earth do you overcome that? The first wire-to-wire loss for the Pacers. He said they told on themselves because they overcame it. They proved that with the right focus and right physicality, if they were ready to play, that they could be as good as, if not better than, the Toronto Raptors. But they didn't show it. They did not show it, and they told on themselves that they were not ready to go at the start. They all talked about physicality and energy early in the game. The Raptors play that way. They're very good at controlling the paint and hitting you and being good on the glass. That's all true. We'll talk about that stuff throughout this episode, but it was just ridiculous how poorly the Pacers started this game. 11-2 in 2.5 minutes. Pacers take a timeout. Raptors lead hits double digits in less than 4 minutes. Raptors lead. They're doubling up the Pacers in less than 7 minutes. Their lead reaches 20 in less than 10 minutes. That was the one that it got crazy. And the Pacers cut it down after that. And that's where the game kind of, air quotes, flipped when everybody was talking about the first 9 minutes being so bad. Is it was 32-11. It did get a little worse. It got to 27. But that's like, it was close, about that close for a while until the Pacers surged in the fourth quarter. Look, I do this a lot. They lost by 14, right? They're down 21 after 9.5 minutes of the game. So you can do the math on how good they were for the other 38.5 minutes of the game. They won them by 7. It doesn't matter. I've said that a million times about the Pacers. They are very, very, very capable of the bottom falling out dramatically at any moment. I'll say this. I said this to Dustin Dopirak. He was sitting next to me in Media Row during this game. When you have the bottom fall out in the second quarter or the fourth quarter, it feels like a bad stretch. When it happens at the beginning of the game, it feels very different because you're playing catch up the whole game, right? It makes it feel a lot worse. It makes it feel like your first impression is so bad. And so that's what made this one so dramatic. They told on themselves right away. How'd they do it? Right away, you saw the Raptors plan. Siakam is going to catch the ball, kind of short corner, kind of right block. The Raptors swarm him before he even fully catches the ball. Right, that really bogged down the Pacers. And I think this is close to in-game and in-season. Pascal Siakam has been double-teamed his whole career. He's an all-NBA level talent. But this, in sheer quantity of times it happens, either per game or over the course of several games, is probably the most he sees it. So he had 26, 10, and 4 assists today, and it still bogs down the offense to an extent when you're playing a team that really cuts off the paint and really holds Siakam that way when no one else can get going. We'll talk about everybody else. But their offense early just couldn't get it going. And the other side is that was the most productive stretch by far for the Raptors offense. They got to the bucket all the time. Let's talk about their first baskets. Colin Murray-Boyles, layup. Scotty Barnes, 12-footer. Colin Murray-Boyles, cutting layup. Brandon Ingram, he does that a lot. Brandon Ingram, 7-footer. Scotty Barnes at the basket. Brandon Ingram free throws. Ochai Agbaji, 2 wide open threes. Brandon Ingram in his mid-range spot. Grady Dick, a layup. Colin Murray-Boyles right at the basket. That's almost all of their first 32 points. It's a lot of right at the rim, right? And the Pacers got that part together, I think, as they got better at the game and a zone defense took grip. But that early was an issue. And so many of my notes early were just like, man, outside of Jarris Walker taking some threes, the Pacers offense was ugly early. TJ McConnell suddenly ends up in a possession where he's defending Scotty Barnes in the post. How does that happen? I had nothing really good to say, and it was very clear this was about to be the Pacers' first, and it was their first wire-to-wire loss of the season. Amazing that a 9-32 team has a wire-to-wire win before a loss. And so the Pacers go centerless to start the second quarter, and it kind of worked. 2.5 minutes of that, they're +6. They're cutting it down, I think, 15 or 14. And then some of the physicality stuff and just bruising, you got to be better stuff. Grady Dick misses a free throw. He's the only guy in the lane for the Raptors. The Pacers have 4 guys. Guess who got the rebound, right? Just a little late to execute some stuff, getting hit, can't get in the paint. The slow comeback didn't feel right? So they got it together, certainly. They didn't cut it down to 4 for nothing. But the start of the game, the Raptors just took hold identity-wise and doing all these little things of protecting the paint the way they want, using their physicality to do so, getting to the paint themselves. And the Pacers couldn't, they made some mid-range shots that are a little tough, I suppose, but it's guys who make tough mid-rangers all the time. And the Pacers just got caught in the feedback loop of can't get stops, playing transition against a good transition team, can't score because they're setting their defense. And once they settled in, pick your time. I mean, basically from the biggest deficit of the game down 27 to the end, right? They settled in. They had it down to manageable at like 19 at halftime. It was 13 in the third quarter, right? They figured it out, but the start was awful, just awful. And it cost them the game. And the bottom fell out before they even established what the bottom really was. The ending was also fascinating in this game because it looked like they might actually come back. It was incredible. They got it to 4. They were rocking in the fourth quarter. I'll get into the zone part of it, but a zone defense was a big part of it. And Rick Carlisle properly explaining post-game that you can't get into zone unless you're scoring, right? And so they were on offense with largely their starters, although McConnell and Quentin Jackson were hitting shots to start the quarter. They came out for Nembhard and Furphy at one point. But the offense was great early in the fourth quarter. Like everybody was scoring. They were getting more to the cup, not a lot, but a little more. They were making more jumpers than they had throughout the game, and they slowly whittle it down to 103-99 after a Johnny Furphy threw with 4:17 to go. I'll tell you, the momentum of the game felt like the Pacers were going to win. The zone defense they figured out was rocking, and then the end of the game, the Raptors just kind of punked them, right? It was extremely tough to see that for the Pacers, that some of the problems that they had solved and they had started to play better, and oh my gosh, this is about to be a crazy spirited, I believe, tying the franchise record number comeback. And Brandon Ingram just said, no. He sticks a 3 after they win a jump ball. Again, he wins the jump ball against Aaron Nesmith. He hits a 3 on the next possession, and all of a sudden, they're up 10. Pacers take a timeout, and it's over. They win the final 322-4. The problem there was nothing. I don't even think necessarily anything fell apart in those final 4 minutes because obviously you go from down 4 to down 14 in about a 4-minute stretch. Yeah, it's going to look bad, but Ingram made threes. And the Pacers did not defend those threes very well, but I don't think that they're like so panicked typically about a Brandon Ingram 3. And the Raptors started 4 for 4 from 3 and then made nothing for forever. I think they made one of their next 20-something threes. So maybe, whatever, they're not due, but they were due or whatever. But Ingram really killed them late. I mean, he just completely shut the door. With those 2 threes were effectively the shots that put the game away, but he scored another basket to put them up 14. With 100 seconds to go, that was the final, like, okay, this game is over moment. There were subs right after that. No one scored the rest of the game. But the Raptors really shut the door by figuring out that zone just a little bit. If you score, it's so much harder for the other team to set it up. And if you get stops, it's so much harder for the other team to set it up. And the Raptors finally got back into their loop of playing the way they wanted down the stretch, which is really tough. Like the Pacers had chances in the fourth, but at one point, Siakam slips on a drive. Johnny Furphy couldn't hit anything at the free throw line today. He took accountability for that at the end of the game, right? Siakam also missed at the foul line. Like a lot of stuff that could have been huge, but they couldn't quite get it done. And so the start and the finish were the worst 12 minutes of the game for the Pacers, but they were so bad that it led to a Pacers loss, ending their 3-game win streak and making them the last team in the league to reach win number 10. Halfway through the season, they have 9 wins and 32 losses. That matches their loss number from last season. Really wild what this year's been, even though it's kind of understandable and kind of not at the same time. So much more to get to from this game. What did the Pacers do well? when they were playing well? How did they actually punch back into this? The paint. What the heck happened in the paint? The Raptors completely owned it, and so much more from the Notebook. It's all coming today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
I carry a lot of responsibility in my household. If something happened to me, there would be serious consequences. We have a mortgage. We got tuition. We got everyday bills. Those aren't going anywhere if something happens to me. And I know that's an overwhelming feeling, but I'm taking steps to protect my family by getting life insurance through Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast, easy, and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. And as of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Ethos has 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 3,000 reviews. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/lockdownNBA. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get your free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/lockdownNBA. That's ethos.com/lockdownNBA. Ethos.com/lockdownNBA. Application times and rates may vary.
We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen, Locked On Raptors. Sean Woodley will tell you about how awesome Colin Murray-Boyles is, and I will agree he can guard and make layups and is an awesome player, or Brandon Ingram's clutch brilliance, or the paint battle on the Raptors side. Scotty Barnes had an insane stat line. The Raptors are good, man. I feel good about my prediction that was going to be a good team. They didn't even have RJ Barrett or Quickly or Mamu, and they looked pretty good in this game. Also, Ochai Agbaji made 2 threes. Keep an eye on him. I'm not reporting anything. I'm just saying, given the Raptors tax situation and the Pacers financial reality, seems like a very natural trade fit there. Let's continue here for the Pacers in this game. A huge issue for them before we get to some positive stuff. The paint battle was crazy. And look, this is what the Raptors like to do, right? They, as Jarris Walker described, they really show in the gaps. They make it hard to kind of shoot into the paint or move the ball that direction. At halftime of this game, it was 28-12 in points in the paint. 12 for the Pacers. That's unbelievably low. Their lowest points in the paint for a full game this season is 28. That was that game in Boston where they actually had a lead in the fourth quarter before losing. Like, it is so hard to keep up, even in the current NBA where jump shooting is way more prevalent. It is so hard to keep up that way because the jump shooting has become prevalent because threes are so efficient. Shots to the basket are still the bread and butter of efficient offense, and the Raptors do the absolute best they can to take that away with what they have, and some of it is what I said. They tighten things up on the strong side of the floor. The gaps aren't there. You have to either have individual creativity or really good shooting or really great screen setting or something, a guy you can dump it into in the post. And that's how Siakam unlocked a lot of their post play in the second half, but they really want to take that away. And they have a lot of good individual defenders, which makes it hard to just drive in there and make them rotate, right? Barnes, Murray-Boyles, Jamal Shedd, Agbaji at times, Lawson, Martin, all these guys play tough and big and are not easy to just penetrate right past and get to the cup. And so 12 points at halftime, right? At one point in the third quarter, McConnell drives, like he was driving all game. He couldn't even get the typical TJ McConnell shots up because there's so much defense around the basket. He took 8 shots. That's fine. That's a little low for him when he plays 21 minutes. You'd think he'd normally be at 10 or 11 in doing so. 0 free throws again. Like he couldn't quite penetrate the same way that he usually does. And he got emphatically blocked at one point in the third quarter, like no space at all to get up the shot, but he still felt like he needed to take it late in the clock. The Raptors really put a strangle on the rim. The Pacers, as the game went on, one got better at defending the rim themselves. That zone defense was awesome. Tony Bradley at the back of the zone was great stuff for the Pacers. Now, like Rick Carlisle said, you have to score to set that up, but it was basically the starters with Bradley out there. They were really working that thing. And you got to give credit to Tony Bradley. He's had 2 games in a row where he's been among, if not J-Hove was better than him last game. 2 of his last 3 games where he maybe was their most effective center, right? He just sat back there, made both his free throws, got 4 boards, didn't do much with the ball. Like it was great Tony Bradley stuff. That shut off the paint for the Raptors. It really disrupted their flow. They couldn't find the right threes. Potter was at the back of that zone at one point. That's when it started. He established it. He did well at the back of the zone, despite struggling in other ways in this game. And Johnny Furphy is like fighting for insane rebounds and getting found on the floor. Like they found a lot of physicality and paint defense advantages, but it took too long to get there. It took them too long to figure out how to get there themselves too. The final numbers for this game, points in the paint, 48 for the Raptors. That's like manageable for the Pacers defensively, but the Pacers only scored 34 points in the paint. That would be tied for their second lowest of the season. The other game being that Kings game. They actually won that Kings game. They had 28 in that loss in Boston that I already mentioned, but things are like, it's so much easier to score when you're scoring in the paint, and they just couldn't get there at all. And of course, obviously the Raptors can live there. They didn't in this game, but like the first time the Pacers played the Raptors had 78 points in the paint. That was the most the Pacers have given up in a game this season. That's what they want to do. So you give the Pacers a little credit for shifting that battle towards them a bit, but that's where everybody's trying to get all the time. Into the paint for easier shots, for rotating a defense, just creating advantages. And the Raptors, for most of the game, dominated that fight. It took the Pacers too long to really settle in and figure out what they needed to do there. Even though it was only a 14-point difference and the Raptors number wasn't overwhelming, guess what? The 14-point difference was the difference in the final score, right? So that was a big issue. Raptors just kept getting in the lane over and over, and Siakam had no space. He just had no space. And he had 4 fouls, so I think that really limited his aggressiveness. His 4th foul was an offensive foul. So that was really, really tough for the Pacers. The other thing that hurt their comeback that I haven't had a chance to mention is there was a play in the game where Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard were hounding Brandon Ingram at the top of the key. And Nembhard tips it away, and Nesmith dives on it, and they get a jump ball. This is right before Ingram's 3 that broke the game open again. It was a 4-point game at the time. And on one hand, it was an awesome show of effort and power and pop from those two defenders. But the starters were on the floor for a ton of that comeback, and they should be. They're the starters. And this is what Carlisle does. Sometimes he'll try for like one last push with the best players. Nembhard and Furphy came in with 10:07 to go. Quentin Jackson on the floor at that time. He came out for Nesmith with 6:26 to go. But a lot of those guys outside of Nesmith were on the court for much of, if not all of the fourth. And so that jump ball came with about 4:37 to go, or 4 minutes to go. And you could tell the Pacers were getting gassed, right? They were, oh man, they're feeling the weight of that fourth quarter. And I wonder how much that played into the rest of the game. Is that it was so hard for them to overcome that level of effort and energy, and the paint battle, and the ugly start, and so much more. So, just a fascinating game in a lot of ways, and that the Pacers played pretty well for a lot of it against a good team. But man, oh man, was that start ugly and a lot to overcome. The other thing that they'll hate that they couldn't overcome, free throws. Johnny Furphy missed 6. I already mentioned that, and he took blame for it post game. And I hate the whole thing of like, the Pacers made all their free throws, they win the game. Well, the Raptors missed a bunch too, but they missed a lot in crunch time. That really, really hurt the Pacers as well in this game. And that's why Furphy's jumper is still a question mark to me. He played quite well in this game. He had a double-double. His first career double-double. Podium game, deserved it. He's going to keep playing. He played the 5. That lineup went well. Right? He had 10 and 10 for the first time of his career. 2 blocks as well. No turnovers. 2 assists. Like, what is there to complain about? This is a second-year player who just was +6 with 10-10, 2 assists, 2 blocks. And yet, the free throws really hurt, and you just look at some of his jumpers, and they're way off, and you wonder, what is this actually going to be? Because of the free throws percentage is still kind of but he does everything with so much confidence and power and pop that just, it makes you think that it's going to be there, but I still have so many question marks about it. That was really killer in this game. He missed 3 during that fourth quarter comeback. I wonder if the Pacers could have figured out a way to get Siakam going earlier, which is not easy to do. I'm not blaming anybody for this. If they could have prevented a lot of the situation they got into, right? That was a big part of this game as well, as they started to feed him like very intentionally early in the second quarter as they chipped the lead down, air quotes, to like 14 or 15. And it was really tough for that to be the case earlier in this game. If they could have found a way to get him rocking earlier in the game, I think that they might have had a better chance to escape this one with a victory. They played well. They mounted a comeback. They were really solid for 36 minutes. But guess what? As has been said about this Pacers team many times this season, it is a 48-minute game, and they did not have it for 48 minutes. Some good stuff that I'm going to get to from this game. Jarris Walker did some good things again. Johnny Furphy already got to his double-double. Some Aaron Nesmith stuff I want to talk about. Ben Shepard, where are you? And much more to close out today's Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, I need to talk to you about the great people over at Wayfair. The new year is here. It's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's the one-stop shop for getting your home back on track, from bedding and mattresses to storage and solutions for every room. Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. They have everything you need for a full home refresh, all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, or upgrading your work from home setup, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and budget. Pick up new bedding and accent pillows from Wayfair, and it completely changes how your bedroom feels. It's cleaner, calmer, and more put together. You can find pieces that match your style without spending a fortune. Shopping is easy, delivery is smooth, everything arrives exactly as planned. It makes getting back into a routine this year feel much more manageable. So get organized, refreshed, and back on track this year for way less. Head to Wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making this your first listen today and every single day, or second listen. Locked On Mavs. Cooper Flag got hurt again. Anthony Davis is hurt. Shrug. What the heck's going on? Anthony Davis is calling reports lies about his injury status. Is he going to get traded? Is he not? Locked On Mavs. We'll have the latest on that. And by the way, two things. If you're listening to this, this comes out on January 15th. That's a big day. That's the day that a lot of guys who signed in the offseason who didn't become trade eligible on December 15th, they become trade eligible today. Isaiah Jackson actually falls in that category. So every Pacer who can be traded this season is now trade eligible. Rhett Bauer and I will talk trades more tomorrow. And also from this, everybody seemed to really like the Ben Mathurin explainer yesterday. This kind of game, I just did points in the paint for a long time. It's exactly what I said yesterday. I see what everybody's saying about, like, oh, the offense looks good without Mathurin. Tonight's game against Toronto was a perfect example of a game where Mathurin would have been super helpful. It's really hard to crack into the paint. He's the best guy, right, at that from the perimeter, especially of the guards. They really could have used him in this game. Obviously, they did not have him. So it's not just fair to be like, oh, these 3 games, like, oh, whatever. Anyway, okay, let's continue and close this one out by emptying the notebook from this game. Jarris Walker, really nice entry pass at one point. I liked some of the stuff he did beyond his shooting, and that continues to be part of the story of his better play of late. Yes, he was 3 for 5 from deep. That's great. He was 1 for 5 on twos. That's not so great. Is the stuff he mixes in that isn't the shooting. 0 turnovers today. That's always a good sign for him. Like, they're trusting him on the floor for more than just like make 3 out of your 5 threes. He had 11 points. He also had the worst defensive rep of anybody in this whole game. He was defending Scotty Barnes. A flimsy screen came, and Scotty Barnes just drove right past him, had a full step on him before he even get into the three-point line. And I thought, what was that? That was really weird. So Jarris is getting better, but I've said his whole career that his offense is ahead of his defense, and people never seemed to get that. I think this year people do. That is the next thing for him. I think people kind of realize he's going to be close to an average shooter, if not much better in his career. He's been better the first 2 years. Can he come around on the defensive end? He has moments, certainly. He has very high moments. But, drives like that, you just go, what was that? It was very, very goofy. Ben Shepherd, for all the good things he's been doing recently, his shot really faded away in the last game, obviously. So he went 1 for 8. In this game, he went 1 for 1. He didn't take a 3, whatever. He was, like, invisible to me in this game. I noticed, like, the second, I think it was late to mid-second quarter, my first note said, I have not noticed Ben Shepherd at all. I'm not even saying he necessarily played bad. They lost his 12 minutes by 9, right? He was kind of invisible, but other guys had worse nights in terms of how poorly their minutes went. But I just didn't feel him on either end, really, right? His defensive impact is normally very obvious because of how pesky he is, because of how much running he does. You didn't see that. After I put that note in, his only made shot was a very tough offensive rebound tip-in, to his credit. He had a really gorgeous drive in the third quarter at one point, but accidentally elbowed Grady Dick in the face. So he did come to showing some teeth and playing a little better in this game, but his minutes were down. I didn't notice him very much. One of his poorer games in the stretch of young guys, just absolutely rocking for the Pacers. And Furphy did again. I already mentioned him a little bit, but getting a double-double, 26 minutes, continuing to start, continuing to prove to be the best alignment for the Pacers. They just have to keep trying it. Like, they have to keep putting Furphy out there. If they walk out of the stretch of the season where they're really trying to learn and play their best guys, and all they learn is that Furphy can play in their rotation next year and is a good pairing with Siakam in the front court, great. Win-win. If they learn that Michael Potter can maybe be their backup 5 next year, he wasn't awesome today, but he has been in other games, great. That's a big thing to learn, right? That's why these better games still matter. It's still something that they can walk away feeling good about. Quentin Jackson was good again, right? Like, is that something they're learning? He's running out of two-way days. We'll talk about that tomorrow. He was plus 12 in 19 minutes. I love watching Quentin Jackson played. That's not even in my notes. Okay, Aaron Nesmith. Tough night. Couldn't make anything. He's like the most trustworthy shooter on the team to me. He's one of the guys that it just feels like it's going in every time he shoots. 0 for 8 from deep in this game. 1 for 4 on twos. He made all his free throws, but 4 turnovers to 2 assists. An ugly game for Nesmith. He can be better than this. It's felt like to me, in the last game I even said this, that like his first drive, he went right through Jamison Battle, and he scored. I think that was the Pacers' first made basket of the game. So he was 0 for 11 after that. Like, it feels like he's almost being too aggressive, and that's good in some ways. You want Aaron Nesmith, if you're the Pacers this year, to really try to harness some drives and get better at toward the rim attacks. But then he has games like this where it's like, man, that's like too much. It's a little, there's a right balance for him. But he took 8 threes. That's fine. He just made none of them, like a normal shooting game for him. And this is a close game the whole time. There's something about the Pacers shooting in this game that was goofy. I mean, they shot horrible. They were 12 for 42 from deep. That's 28.6%. Like, Siakam said they have to shoot better given the way the Raptors defend. That's totally true. Huff, Nembhard, and Nesmith, 3 starters, combined to go 0 for 14. The rest of the Pacers were 12 for 28. So good shooting from not those 3. Those 3 were really rough. But the Pacers had 3 threes in this game that hit nothing. They were just really off and out of sync with their shooting and offense early in this game. And that was another sign that, this was not something the Raptors were doing was giving them trouble beyond what you'd normally expect from them. It took them a while to settle in and get it going. So that was really tough for them. Nembhard didn't score particularly well in this game. He was 4 for 7 on twos and made 6 free throws. So he had 14 points on 10 shots, 6 assists, no turnovers. He continues to at least have much better statistical production in terms of his passing. However, his ball handling was very good in this game. He had 2 drives where his handle alone got him past the defender or between 2 defenders that were defending a ball screen for him. And that's something that's been a problem for him. A lot of his turnovers in his whole career have been just like too loose of a handle kind of stuff. This year, that's converted more to passes. But seeing in a game like this where a lot was tight for the Pacers and they weren't responding to physicality, I thought that was very noteworthy that he had 2 of those. And my other Nembhard note and last note of the game, maybe I haven't been paying quite attention enough, but Nembhard and McConnell together hasn't happened a lot for the Pacers. And that is something that Carlisle loves, right? His 2 point guard hopes or alignments are typically a thing he likes to get to. They did get to it late in the first half of this game. 2 minutes and 25 seconds of McConnell, Nembhard, Nesmith, Bradley, Siakam was +5 in this game. And there was another McConnell, Nembhard group that I'm, for some reason, just completely incapable of finding. Oh, there it is. McConnell. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. There we go. McConnell, Nembhard, Nesmith, Walker, Bradley was also a plus in their couple minutes, right? That they don't go to it as much this year. Their rotation doesn't merit it because they don't have a third point guard that can also play to offset some of those minutes. But Quentin Jackson playing more now makes that possible. And they went back to that today with, as I mentioned in the plus minuses, some success. I would keep an eye on if Q's going to keep playing or if Cam Jones goes back to getting minutes at some point. That becoming a thing once again for this Pacers team. It's one of Rick Carlisle's favorite alignments, but no one's favorite is losing. Pacers halfway done at 9-32. Their next game is an important game for the inverse standings. They play the only other team with less than 11 wins in the New Orleans Pelicans on Friday. So we'll have a podcast after that. But in between, Rhett Bauer will come back. He's my trade guy this year. We're going to talk about January 15th this year, what that means for the Pacers, what's now possible, updated trade thoughts that we have internally about the team since we last spoke, and then we'll look external a little bit. He might name some individual names. I might not, but we'll talk about positions and strategies and things of that nature. So looking forward to that. Thank you all so much for listening today. You can find me on social media at Tony Arias. This podcast is on many platforms at Locked On Pacers. Thank you all so much for listening today. We will see you very soon.